Hi, I'm Channing McCorriston, the container guy. Today we'll be installing a 6-foot 4-inch roll-up door in the side of a 40-foot standard one-time use shipping container.
After landing a deal on national television in 2011, where his team pitched their idea of modifying shipping containers, he went on to start his own business. Since then, he's completed thousands of container modifications for clients in every major industry. Now, he wants to teach you everything he knows about container modifications and accessories. Channing McCorriston is the Container Guy.
You may be wondering why the door is 6 foot 4 inches and not just 6 feet. The corrugations to container are 11 inches on center, so we plan our doors to be 6 foot 4, 7 foot 3, 8 foot 2, 9 foot 1, and 10 feet. That's what works out perfect, where we always end up with an outside corrugation for our side frames. The boys will be marking this out shortly, and then we will show you how to safely drop a corrugation panel to avoid any injury to yourself or others. We've got the rough opening marked out. It's 76 and 5/8 of an inch wide by 84 inches tall. As you can see, it lands to be just about center in the outside corrugations, leaving us room to rivet the side frame pieces on. Up at the top, it's only 8 inches down from the top tubing. The header is also another 4 inches thick, so we'll have 12 inches from the top tubing and about 14 inches from the ceiling inside the container. That's the max we can get out of the door opening height, so it'll be an 80-inch door opening, which is similar to any man door. Pro tip for dropping this panel is when you cut the bottom corrugation, the footer is actually designed to just cut right on the top of the bottom weld. The material is the thinnest there. You don't want to cut through the weld, it's just a lot harder going. Leave a little bit of corrugation uncut at the bottom, so when you drop your panel from the inside, it hinges along the bottom and safely drops on the ground, and the panel won't slide back at you to potentially take out your ladder or your legs. Okay, so we're back. The guys have the rough opening all cut out and prepped for our door frame. The door frame consists of 4 pieces. There's the left and right side frames, the footer, and the header. The side frames, they have pre-laser cut holes that will drill through and rivet into the outside corrugation that's left over. This just sets right in. Typically just rests in place. Footer is laser cut perfectly. We have left the welds for the footer to rest on. That's designed to sit flush there, and then we have in the threshold plate, there's an area to stop the water from actually pooling into your containers, so the water will flow out of the can. And then so this gets wood screwed into the wood floor of the container using number 8 Phillips head screws. The rough opening is just slightly larger than what it needs to be, so the footer and the side piece aren't touching. The footer is the exact framed opening that you want it to be, so once you have this all in place, get your hole squared up, but you can make sure that you have the right dimension by just making sure those 2 pieces are flushed. Header tucks up in place and pre-laser cut on the outside corrugations, so you'll drill from the inside out through the corrugations. Sorry, those are the inside corrugations, and then from the outside we'll rivet back through, and that will hold the corrugations nice and tight up against the header and provide that structural rigidity back to the container. Proper order for installing the roll-up door frame is drill and rivet your bottom holes, then get your header installed across at the top. So that needs to get aligned, and you need the movement of the side frames up the top. After your header's riveted in place, then you can jump inside the can and self-tapping screw up into the top 2 holes into the 60mm square tube. Once that's done, then you can wedge the corrugations out. If there's a gap here, drill out the rest of your side frame holes and rivet it in place Last would be snugging up and screwing down your wood screws into your threshold plate at the bottom. You'll see with the header, this return fold actually wraps around the fold on the side frame. A couple holes on the side of the header that are aligned with holes on the side of the side frame. Those we just quickly rivet it in place. That keeps everything nice and square and your framed opening to be the proper width dimension. From the inside, you have to drill through the pre-laser cut holes and the inside corrugation. Once these holes are drilled out, then from the outside, you rivet through the corrugations through the header. So what we found with this container is that the corrugations are slightly bowed inwards after we cut the opening. So yeah, we've already riveted the bottom hole on the side frame. Now we'll do this top one here, but it's about, I don't know, 1/8 to 3/16 of an inch away from the corrugations. So from the back side, we'll pry something in there to bring the two sheets of metal nice and snug and then rivet it together and just continue that process all the way down. One tidbit of advice is if where you're installing this frame has dents, pound those out prior to cutting your opening, because once you start hitting it after it's cut out, it just seems to reverberate and not really actually pound out the dent. So do that prior to cutting out the opening. But again, if you have a random dent here or there, even if you missed a rivet, it's not an issue. But yeah, just do your best to pry from the back side, get as many rivets as you can into the side frame. Another thing that's really cool with these side frames is that they're 5.5 inches wide. So if 11 inches over, a corrugation over another roll-up door was to start here, the side frame would come back around and then the two frames will connect through these laser cut holes. And now this will be a hollow section, a vertical column, floor to ceiling. And yeah, so basically you can fit 4 8-foot roll-up doors nicely in the side of a 40-foot container and have super strong vertical posts floor to ceiling. You can see that the side frame actually secures into the top 2x2 tubing. And so the side frame actually goes right from the floor to the ceiling and provides a support column for this cutout. Top of the side frame, we use self-tapping screws to go into the 60mm tubing. So in the header, we'll drill from the back side and then rivet from the front side. If the can's bowed slightly out and the corrugations are a bit spaced, if you just work from both sides into the middle, as you go across, it will bring the corrugations closer to the header and save you from needing to clamp. And then once this is all done, just a nice bead of silicone along here just to potentially avoid any water intrusion. When working with the teak plywood flooring, which is the most common, you'll be fine using a wood threaded screw. But if you're going into the bamboo flooring, which seems to be a little bit harder, sometimes we've had to pre-drill these screws because the wood thread just seems to be a little bit too coarse and it ends up snapping the head off. So if you get that and you snap a head, yeah, just pre-drill. So we're back now. We've got the entire frame all riveted up and the threshold plate screwed down. We've also siliconed around all the edges, and we've siliconed up top above the header to make sure that no water intrudes into the container. So we're about to hang the roll-up door. I just want to go over what it all kind of comes with. You'll have the door, your left and your right tracks, and then it'll come with a hardware kit where you got your handles and then your mechanism that stops the coil once it's all installed from rolling up and past and unwinding. We need to make sure that the tracks are secured to the door itself. So there's just 2 carriage bolts with nuts. Do that on each side. Then we like to have the door propped up on a ladder prior to lifting it in place. Big note, do not cut the strapping tape until the tracks are screwed on to the framing kit and you're ready to drop the door slab in there. So do not unwind, do not unwrap, don't do anything. Have an X-Acto knife ready when you're ready, but don't do that prior to having everything up and installed and ready to go. I just want to note that we order all of our roll-up doors to be 7 foot 3 inches tall. That's a good height for high cube containers. If you install a roll-up door on a standard height, you can, because the frames are 7 inches longer. We cut off a 7-inch chunk, and so we've already cut that off. And then just on this side, we've actually just angled that cut to clear the threshold plate on the floor. So once it's installed, it just sits nice and flush in here, and we're able to silicone around. So any water that was to come in here actually just still angles out of the container. So we're about to lift the door in place, and we'll just give you guys an idea how to do it. Make sure you got 1 or 2 extra hands, because it is a labor-intensive process and can kind of get a little awkward. It's not too heavy, it's just awkward. So what we try to do is prop the bottom track against the frame. So when we go to lift up, we're just using leverage and prying against the wall already, so it's not all awkward and shaky. So we'll let the guys do it. Lift it over my head here. And so one guy on each side typically, and then one in the middle. Step 1 will be, we try to just flush the track to the side frame here. It should just sit nice and flush. Make sure, yeah, your door is spec'd to be the same as your frame. And then once, you got to get a longer 3/8 hex driven head on your impact driver, self-tap your screws, secure your frame to it. Once your frame's secured, everything's done, you know it's all right, then we can cut this saran wrap and the tape and drop the panel. And we'll just slowly want to feed your panel down and let it drop nicely, remove the foam, and then prior to tensioning the spring, you want to make sure that you've installed your handles and the stoppers, because if you tension the spring, the door goes all the way up, now you got a problem. So just finish self-tapping all of your tracks in place, and then it's time to cut and drop the door sheet. Be careful when you're cutting the foam and saran wrap that you don't cut through the rubber door seal at the bottom. So yeah, it's right here, you can see a little black strip, so you want to stay away from that. A lot of times we just kind of prep the door to be cut, but we leave the strapping tape. Don't cut that until you have helping hands. Nice sharp knife blade always helps, that I don't have. So you can already feel that tension on that strapping tape, and it's ready to go. So now it's just 2 quick cuts while you got help, and you just want to slowly lower the door down and make sure that you have the door started in the track when you do that. Cut the one, now this. Got the door started in the track. Maybe get you a view of that, just here. And now, you gotta make sure you kind of hang on to it, because it's gonna want to even unwind out into the can. So now, just keep tension on the door, start pulling it down. One other problem is, if you just let it go on its own, this is a sharp edge here, and a lot of times it can scratch the paint on the door. So as we're going down, I'm kind of holding out on it and making sure that we're not scratching the paint on the door. The included stopper plate comes with your hardware. You'll have to remove the nut on that carriage bolt. This nut, and there'll be one more that's included with the hardware. That's where your handle will go on the outside. And then this one, you put the nut and the bolt right through there. Now as this door goes up, this will be inside the track, and then as it comes up, it hits and stops that door from unwinding. So we've got the stopper plate installed on this side of the door. The latch is on the other side, so this one we don't actually put a bolt through here because there won't be any handle on that side. But the two handles that are provided, one goes in the center on the outside, the other one goes on the latch side on the outside. That's nice. Sometimes you can step on it to compress your door seal and allow you to latch the door. And it also includes a rope. These two holes right here, you can just tie your rope up, and then when you're inside the can and you want to pull down the door, you can just grab the rope if you're not tall enough to reach the door itself. And so here's the part that goes into the track up at the top. Self-threading bolt is included, and it's pretty quick and easy. So you just slide that through the track. That just taps it in place. And now when the door sheet comes up, it can't go any further than the stopper here. And same thing on the other side. Don't get lazy and just try to use one of these. You need both of them. From the outside, you have your center door handle, just 2 carriage bolts, nut on the inside, and then same thing, 2 carriage bolts, nut on the inside. And on this one, there's the stopper on the inside as well. So it's pretty tight. There's a lot of material thickness there, and the carriage bolt isn't that long, but it does work, and make sure you put it on. So after you drop the door panel and have installed your door stops, then to tension the door so that you don't want it just auto lifting itself, you just want it nice and easy, so you just, a finger guides it up, or maybe a little bit more pressure in that. But yeah, to tension the door, you just get a punch, and it's just a gear here where you just keep grabbing cogs. Be very careful, once it gets more tension, it can get, it's difficult, so just be out of the way where you don't wrap yourself in the head with your punch or whatever tool you're using to tension the door. If you're installing 3-inch brush seal, which we will be, you'll notice that you'll get it tensioned, it'll be set properly, it'll lift nicely, and then once you install your brush seal, that keeps all the snow and dust and insects from entering your container. That adds resistance, so once you're all said and done, you'll notice your door is harder to open. You'll have to come back in here and give it a few more clicks. So one thing to notice is we're very tight to the ceiling here, so the 6'8" opening is the max opening that we can get out of a standard height container. I can just get my fingers through there. Beware, this is a brand new or a one-time use container. If you had a used container and there's any dents in the roof at all, you're gonna have a hard time. If this thing binds, you'll have to potentially take the entire door down, cut the bottom of your tracks more, and then lift the door. So if you feel like your roof's not perfectly straight or bent upwards, then maybe instead of cutting 7 inches off the bottom, you can cut 8, 9, something just to be safe. And the only thing that's going to change is it's just going to lower where your door stops. So instead of having 6'8", you're going to have 6'7", or 6'6", finished opening. Most people, when they're installing roll-up doors, often they're in a high cube container, so this isn't as much of a worry, especially if your door is spec'd properly. So we use a 7' 3" tall door in a high cube container, and then that gives us another 5 inches of clearance under here. So no worries if you're putting it in a high cube. If it's standard, just beware. One final thing to note is that because we've used 7' 3" long tracks in a 6' 8" opening, we're gonna have to move the latch hole up 7 inches. So we'll just basically recreate that 7 inches upwards and cut that out, and then our door will be able to latch and lock properly. To finish the door and make sure that you have a nice wind and water tight seal, we use 2-inch and 3-inch brush seal. So at the top, horizontally, we use the 180-degree aluminum retainer with a 2-inch brush seal, and then on the sides we use a 45-degree aluminum retainer with a 3-inch brush seal. Because the sides on an angle, it takes an extra inch of brush seal to really make sure that you get that seal up inside each of the cracks. So we've got the door seal all installed using self-tapping screws through the aluminum retainer. On the sides of the roll-up door, we use the 45-degree retainer with a 3-inch brush seal. After the brush seal installation, we had to jump inside the container, give the spring a couple more clicks to increase the tension, and that allows us to open the door very easily. When closing your door, especially at the start, This rubber door seal is going to be pretty firm, so sometimes you have to step on the handle to get the door to latch. You want it to be nice and tight. It might be difficult at the start, but as the sun kind of cures this and bends it over, it'll get easier over time. Come to the edge, and a lot of times, yeah, with your foot when this can's on the ground, you can just step on here and then just slide over. Slide latch here has a slot where you can insert a disc lock, and that'll keep all your possessions nice and secure. Thanks for watching our instructional video on how to install a roll-up door in a shipping container. If I missed anything, please feel free to comment below. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell for notifications